makapagtanong po ako sa ating mga ahensya ng gobyerno na nandirito ngayon, beginning with the Department of Justice. Sino pong nandito for DOJ? Attorney Arellano or Attorney Quintana? Will it be you, ma'am? Thank you, Attorney Mary Grace. Ma'am, could you update the committee on the charges filed by the department against Apollo Quiboloy yesterday? At ano po yung possible impact, no? Possible impact ng isang extradition request ng US sa mga proceedings na ito, kung sakali.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Ma'am, for the update of the criminal case, is it okay if I defer to my colleague from the prosecution service? As to the extradition case, we'll just reply after Prosecutor Agnes has replied. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Mergis. Attorney Agnes, you have the floor, ma'am.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. With refers to the petition, I believe that the case is dismissed before filed against Apollo Quiboloy were initially, as per records of the DOJ, they were initially dismissed by the prosecution office in Davao City, and upon petition for review, the same was reversed, and the office of the secretary ordered the remanding of the case to the local prosecution office for the filing of the proper cases in the proper courts.
And these are cases for qualified trafficking and child abuse, is that correct?
We understand, Your Honor, that this refers to the two cases, particularly the child abuse and the trafficking in persons. We are not aware of the other cases that were initially dismissed by we are not aware of the status of the cases that were initially dismissed by the local prosecution office, which belongs to this batching of case.
So bukod po sa yung dalawang kaso, one each, I suppose, on child abuse and trafficking, meron pa pong ibang mga kaso na dinismiss noon sa Davao?
As per record of the case, Your Honor, if I may just read
Yes,
the
please.
records that we gathered from the local offices. We have the case for rape under NPS number 65, ending in 6556. And yes, there were 3, Your Honor.
So may 3 pong kaso ng rape na dinismiss noon sa Davao?
No, Your Honor, there were 3 cases. One is for rape, one is for child abuse, and one is for trafficking in person.
So yung pangatlong kaso for rape was dismissed as well. In-appeal din po ba siya sa DOJ?
This, Your Honor, we have no knowledge of that particular, if there were any petitions filed before the Office of the Secretary, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am. And for the education of our committee, given the 2 cases now filed, will a warrant of arrest then be forthcoming?
Since, Your Honor, this is still in the processes of the Department of Justice, a warrant of arrest is not necessary.
So it's not necessary, but would it be forthcoming?
Unless and until that it will be filed in the courts, Your Honor, the court will issue a warrant of arrest for that matter.
Thank you, Assistant State Prosecutor, Attorney Agnes. So back to Senior State Counsel, Attorney Mary Grace, on the question about an extradition request.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On the impact of the filing of the criminal cases here on the extradition request, first of all, just for the information of the body, we have yet to receive a request for the extradition of Mr. Quiboloy. If and when we receive one, once the cases are filed in our courts here, under our Philippines-US extradition treaty, the filing of a case is not a ground for refusal. It's merely a ground for the postponement of extradition. So that is discretionary on the part of the requested state, in which case the requested state has the option to either postpone the case, postpone the extradition, which the postponement may run from the completion of the prosecution up to the service of the sentence, or on the other hand, the requested state may also opt to file an extradition case, which can run in parallel with the prosecution case. If this happens, Your Honor, and the court grants the request for extradition, the requested state is then required to temporarily surrender the extraditee to the requesting state. Of course, subject to the condition that the extraditee will be returned to the requested state to complete the prosecution and service of sentence. Should the court impose a should the court find him guilty of the domestic cases filed here.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Mary Grace, for describing to us what may be the possible scenarios moving forward, whether unilaterally or parallel, given what may or may not be done under that treaty. And of course, maigi po at pinagpasalamat ng chair yung pag-aksyon na ng Department of Justice. As well, friends, we have a copy of the Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order of the DOJ, memorandum of the Secretary to Bureau of Immigration Commissioner Tansinco, dated 27th February. So maraming salamat din po para sa ILBO na ito. Thank you, ma'am. Salamat po sa DOJ.
Thank you
Ngayon,
also, Madam Chair.
thanks, ma'am. Ngayon naman po, ilang mga tanong sa DMW at o sa DFA. Given po itong mga dagdag pong testimonya natin, lalo na kay Miss Reynita, no? Ano pong mga proteksyon ang pwedeng ibigay sa mga OFWs na who fall prey to these kinds of abusive activities? Is DMW with us today, Comsec? Wala sila, no?
Miss Bernadette.
Oo. Mula sa DFA, Director Bernadette from the Office of Migrant Workers Affairs. If our OFWs fall prey to these abusive activities, what protections could they avail of po?
Ma'am, in the first place, if the abuses start from here in the Philippines, the DFA cannot be involved in that. It has to be our own agencies like the DMW and of course our law enforcement agencies. If we're talking about if they are already abroad and they fall prey to these matters, again, ma'am, they can report to the Philippine Embassy in Singapore, more specifically to the migrant workers offices if they are technically OFWs. If they are permanent migrants, then they fall under the responsibility of the DFA, the foreign service part of the embassy. The MWO is a unit under the Philippine Embassy. However, if the activities, the illegal activities are considered also being committed within the territory of Singapore, then the host government's agencies may also need to be involved. So there are many aspects to be studied regarding these cases, ma'am. But so far, we have not received any request for assistance from the OFWs or the permanent residents abroad regarding this matter. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you also, Director Bernadette. At saka at least narinig din po ni Miss Reynita. And in fact, she presented herself to our Philippine Embassy in Singapore para swear sa kanyang video testimony kanina. Kaya salamat na rin po at the start sa ating embassy sa Singapore. And at least narinig ni Miss Reynita na pwede pong humingi ng dagdag na tulong sa ating embahada doon kung sakali. Also, Director Bernadette, would the Philippine Embassy in Singapore be able to facilitate any assistance from the Singapore government's agencies to our OFWs like Ms. Reynita and others kung hiningi po nila?
Ma'am, we can always request and probably with the help of the Philippine government, the Singaporean government or any other government may consider this more seriously. However, being a different state, being a different government, we cannot guarantee what their response will be.
Oh, very well taken po. Of course, hindi naman natin pwedeng i-guarantee yung gagawin o di gagawin ng ibang gobyerno. But it's enough to know na yung embassy natin has already assisted Ms. Renita na makalahok dito sa ating pagdinig, and that she may also request them for additional assistance. Ms. Renita, narinig niyo po yon yung sinabi ng resource person natin mula sa Department of Foreign Affairs na pwede pa po
Yeah.
kayong humingi ng assistance sa embahada natin doon kung sakasakali.
Yes po, Madam Chair. Actually po, matagal ko na po talagang alam, but in my heart, I really thought that yung mga tao pong na-involved talaga sa gawain dito ng Ministry ng KOJC, they're also a victim. And that time, I really don't know how to make a move. Kasi po, nung una po ako nag-testify, nauna po ako nag-testify nung unang-unang pag ano ko sa Rappler, ay sobra pong naapektuhan ang personal life ko. Kaya po I back off. But then this time, I think nabuhayan po kami ng loob na I hope we don't really expect a lot na magkakaroon po ng changes, you know, in just a blink of an eye. But at least an opening eye for those OFW na gustong gumising po na na-involve po dito sa gawain. Kasi I see a lot of sacrifices na ibinuhos po ng mga OFW dito po. And beyond that, it's really not of my control, Madam Chair.
Maraming salamat doon, Miss Renita. Ang ganda nung sinabi niyong this whole investigation is eye-opening for us, pampagising po sa ating lahat. Unang-una na dahil sa katapangan ninyong mga victim survivors, mga witnesses. And then for us, working in government as well. And pasensyoso din naman po kami sa komite, tulad po ninyo, di din po kami umaasa sa overnight changes, pero we will really apply ourselves po to work with you and our national government agencies na kahit dahan-dahan, mabigyan ng kahit bahagyang hustisya kayo at magkaroon po tayo ng mga pagbabago moving forward para hindi na po magpatuloy o maulit-ulit yung ganito pong mga pang-aabuso. So, salamat po sa malaking ambag nyo dyan, Ms.
Salamat
Renita.
po.
Kayo po ni Sir Dindo ngayong pagdinig na ito. And salamat po, Director Bernadette. At the next hearing, we will ask a similar question of the Department of Migrant Workers. And perhaps lastly po for this hearing, mula po sa DSWD, kung maari pong maitanong. Yes, ma'am, Attorney Megan. Yes po, salamat. Attorney Megan, any updates po on the NGOs mentioned in the last hearing? Just to recall po for all our recollection, itinanong po ng chair isinabi po ng DSWD na the department was already, previous hearing 19th Feb, in the process of gathering more information to better facilitate the inquiry in aid of legislation. In particular po, sa tatlong NGOs, yung Children's Joy Foundation, yung Handog ng Pagmamahal, at saka yung Alay sa Mga Kapansanan. Oh, I'm sorry. This is already submitted. Thank you sa DSWD. The department informed the committee that Children's Joy Foundation, its status is active, whereas while Handog ng Pagmamahal and Alay sa May Kapansanan are both expired as NGOs, and in fact delisted. Kasi ang sabi ng department, the status of expired is a record of lapsed renewal. And sinabi din po ng department in your submission to the committee that the above information has been referred to Field Office 11 for validation of the delisted SWDAs. And upon receipt of reports from Field Office 11, the Standards Bureau of the department will create a plan of action that will serve the best interests of the client, such as provision of technical assistance, social preparation of residents, referral to nearby facilities and others, based on Memorandum Circular Number 16, Series of 2018, or the Guidelines on Handling of Complaints against SWDAs or social welfare and development agencies. And to date, meaning as of Feb 19, Field Office 11 was conducting activities to complete their validation report. So, ma'am, I'd just like to ask if there's any additional update on these NGOs mentioned in the last hearing. And also, in particular, about Children's Joy Foundation, having heard the testimony under oath of Dindo Makiling, if this will impact on the continuing investigations of DSWD. So, Attorney Megan Therese, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. Good morning. Additional updates lang po. Yung dun po sa dalawang mentioned na NGO po, yung Handog ng Pagmamahal and Alay sa May Kapansanan, they're located in Las Piñas and Quezon City. So, for correction lang po, Madam Chair, that this is not FO11 pero FONCR po. So we will be doing the necessary coordination with FONCR to validate if they are operating or not, despite the lapse of their registration and license to operate. And then, Madam Chair, for Children's Joy Foundation, it has a valid registration and license to operate. However, it is set to expire on March 17, 2024. So that's just in a few days. As for the testimony a while ago with regard to Children's Joy Foundation located in Canada, we will look into this, Madam Chair, and the testimony will be very useful in our investigation, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Attorney Megan Therese. And I'm sure natutuwa si Sir Dindo marinig na yung testimony nila ay magiging very useful sa department sa ongoing investigation. Narinig niyo po yon, Sir Dindo?
Madam Chair, thank you so much po. Mararinig po yun. Thank
Okay,
you so much.
maraming salamat din po sa tulong nyo, hindi lang sa komite, pati sa DSWD. So, dear friends, since wala na pong ibang mga kasama kong dumating para sa ating pagdinig, I just like to make a brief closing remark before suspending our hearing. So, kung totoo po yung mga sinasabi ng ating mga witness, isa ang naging malinaw sa pagdinig natin ngayong araw. Scammer si Apollo Quiboloy. Ginagamit ang taus-pusong pananampalataya ng mga tagasunod niya para makalikom ng milyong-milyong pera. Pati mga OFW nawawalan ng bahay, makapagbigay lang sa kanya. Imbes na sa mga bata, sa mga mahihirap, sa mga vulnerable, sa mga disaster victim survivors na pupunta ang mga pangsosolicit nila, mukhang puro sa luho niya na pupunta, sa private jet at jet fuel, sa mansyon at marami pang iba. Sa Amerika, na-indict din si Quiboloy on bulk cash smuggling. Liban pa sa mga kaso ng sex trafficking, fraud. Kaya importante yung narinig natin yung paggamit ng mga peking account. So sa Amerika, fraud and coercion. At ngayong araw napag-alaman natin mukhang nakaabot pa sa Singapore at sa Canada. So in the next hearing, we will invite the Anti-Money Laundering Council to further elucidate us on this matter at gayon din ang Department of Migrant Workers muli. So muli, maraming salamat kay Ma'am Reynita at Sir Dindo na buong tapang na naglahad ng kanilang mga kwento. Mabuhay po kayo, Miss Reynita, Sir Dindo. At maraming salamat muli sa lahat nating mga resource persons na nandirito, lalo na mula sa ating mga national government agencies. So, friends, this hearing is suspended.